Hey guys, welcome back to It Takes Two. I'm Quinlan,
And I'm Emily.
and today we're going to do a little review of the movie The Guilt Trip.
Before we get into that, don't forget to follow us on socials. Takes Two Pod on Twitter and TikTok, Takes Two underscore pod on Instagram, and It Takes Two on Spotify and YouTube. Make sure you guys are following and subscribe to us. Give these videos a like, it really helps us out and helps us kind of get an idea of what you guys are liking. So, this is a 2017 film starring Barbara Streisand and Seth Rogen. A little summary for you guys. As an inventor, Andy Brewster is about to embark on the road trip of a lifetime. A quick stop at his mom's house turns into an unexpected cross country voyage with her along for the ride.
That's it? That's the whole summary?
That was like the tagline of the movie.
I feel like it's missing quite a few key elements, you know?
I'm pretty sure the synopsis would be a little bit longer, but I mean, that's what we're here for, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Unlike last week's episode, that was our most chaotic film review yet.
Well, how can you review something as iconic as High School Musical 2?
Yeah, we couldn't trash it. It's gold. What did you want from us?
It's just gold. We couldn't add to that.
Okay, as always, guys, I feel the need to give you a little spoiler warning because we will be breaking down the entire plot of this movie.
At what point do you not give spoilers anymore?
When people understand.
I guess people will never understand. You should always include them, I guess. That totally makes sense.
Because if we were just like talking about our opinions of the film, that'd be one thing, but we're gonna break this down.
There's nothing gonna be spoiled for anybody.
It's really just a feel good movie.
Yeah, it was just funny, feel good. It wasn't anything like plot twist, shake you up, it was literally just it was funny.
It's the movie you watch with your mom who loves Barbara Streisand, but you want to watch something with Seth Rogen.
Yeah, that's accurate because literally Barbara Streisand was like, "Don't use that language," and he literally said shit like once.
Don't use that street talk with me.
Yeah, he literally said shit, and I was like, okay.
Yet she was playing erotic audiobooks the entire car ride.
It was one book.
One book, 22 CDs.
Yeah, that's a little much, but he couldn't say shit.
But he did keep having to turn off the stereo because he was like, nope, this is uncomfortable.
He's like, we've had enough of this today.
How did we even get through the entire disc collection? It was only a week-long road trip, and they seem to be doing a lot of other things.
That's true. But I don't know. Since they're CDs, maybe they're only like an hour long. Because it seemed like it was one book. So I couldn't imagine it being multiple hours on each CD.
True, but that's still like 22 hours of content.
But from New Jersey to San Francisco, is that where they ended?
Yeah, I guess so, but I felt like there were so many big breaks in the middle.
Oh, yeah, of course. But
And the amount of times he turned it off.
that's totally true.
So I guess we should start at the beginning.
That's a good place to start.
You know, that's the place. Everything starts, including this movie.
At the beginning.
At least we think we're funny.
So basically, Seth Rogen, his name is Andy, and he is an organic chemist that creates a 100% natural cleaner that's basically drinkable. And that becomes important at the end of the movie. But basically, it's chemical free and it's a cleaner, blah, 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 this and that. And this week long road trip is he has pitch meetings set up across the United States, and he's going and trying to sell his product. But right before he goes on this road trip, he's at his mom's house, and his mom drops this like bomb of a story on him when they're talking about like relationships and how she's never dated anyone or anything since his father died when he was 8. Basically, she tells him, I did have this lover before I met your father.
And his name was Andy.
So Andy was named after Andy, and Andy took it upon himself to track down Andy.
There's a lot of Andyception in this movie.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So he tracks down Andy, and he adds an extra stop at the end of his road trip without telling his mom, and is like, Mom, do you want to come on this road trip with me? That's why they're doing what they're doing and what the goal of this movie is, to get his mom to meet her old lover because, in a way, I guess he thinks his mom is lonely, you know? Like, she's pretty overbearing. She wants to be involved in his life, like, 24/7. So he's like, maybe if she finds a man, she'll be out of my life a little bit more, you know?
She can baby him instead.
Yeah, exactly.
So then basically we pick up on them starting the road trip, where all great road trips start at a car rental. Andy is ready to get an SUV with a GPS and just go. His mom insists they get a fuel efficient car. And what do they pull out in? What was it?
They just called it Mr. Bean's car because it was so tiny. Yeah. Guilt trip movie. Let's look it up. I want to know now. Chevy Sonic.
So, what car do they get? A Chevy Sonic. The tiniest road trip car you could ever get.
They are packed in there. Just the two of them.
I'm surprised that they were even able to fit the hitchhiker in at one point.
Yeah, at one point they picked up a guy, but you know, he squeezed in there too, but it was pretty packed.
That was his only plot point. He was there for literally 3 seconds, so she's just like, I picked up a hitchhiker.
That was it.
That was it. Because earlier in the movie, she said, don't pick up hitchhikers, Andy.
And then what does she do? She needs some adventure in her life, so she picks up a hitchhiker.
What else do you do? We do not suggest picking up hitchhikers, okay? It is still dangerous.
Can be dangerous. Don't do it.
I also think hitchhiking's illegal in most places now.
I'm pretty sure it is, but you know what can you do? People are gonna do what they gotta do.
So, as they start their road trip, Andy starts with a couple failed pitch meetings. Every time he leaves, he's just like, oh, it went great, Mom. They loved me, blah, blah, blah. Because he can't admit his failings to his mom because he's already this perfect little boy to her and he needs to live up to those standards. Because he has to be more worried about taking care of her.
Another area that he falls short that he's not gonna like display for his mom is that he's still single. His mom knows that he's single, but we kind of get a little bit of a sense of why in a very traumatic experience for him. They get stranded in the snow at one point, and they're just gonna find a hotel, stay for the night, wait till, you know, they can get back on the road. Mom's like, you need to save money. We know somebody in Tennessee. And he's like, Mom, no, we don't. Drop it. Basically, they end up at his high school sweetheart's house with her husband, and she's pregnant. So, you know, very awkward situation just in general. But his mom's like, you know, we've been talking about like past relationships, and I wanted to know like what happened to you guys. Maybe that's why Andy's still single. And she's like, well, he was a little crazy and he proposed to me at a football game in front of everybody. So I said no because we're too young to get married. And obviously, at this point, we realize Andy has never told his mother that he proposed to her, and that's why they ended up breaking up, because she had no idea even that he was kind of the reason that they broke up.
She thought it was all the girl.
And so then that kind of tells us why he's single, because
he clearly has never gotten over her.
And here he is on her couch at her house with her husband, and how many babies, we don't know. You know, like how many children she's already had. Traumatic for him for sure.
So after this point, things really start breaking down between Andy and his mom. He kind of just like snaps on her and is like, why would you do this? Like, I can't. And then they have to just the next day go to another pitch meeting. And this time, his mom ends up sitting in on the pitch meeting. She kind of just got roped into it in the whole situation. And she starts trying to help him pitch, which only leads to more disasters because she's trying to adapt the product to what they are looking for, and not Andy is just not having it.
Yeah, he mentions that like he's not wanting to change it at all because he's got hundreds and hundreds of bottles of this cleaner already made. He's not going to be able to change it in any way. The product is what it is. He's like, I've spent years developing this and figuring it out. Like, I can't just change the name and the label and add food coloring and scents and, you know, like, I'm not doing that. It's not what my product is.
So that retailer obviously doesn't buy his product. So in defeat, they end up at another hotel that night, and in a drunken rage, Andy kind of just yells at his mom and calls her out for trying to be too involved in things. And as any mother in this case would do, she's like, "What did I do? Love you too much?" It was just too much for her, so she storms out, ends up going to the hotel bar, getting a little tipsy with the patrons, and is kind of just clapping back at him for everything he said.
After this little drunken fight that happens, it's not really resolved. They just like wake up the next morning, get in the car, and
Silence.
silence, and then they get to a roadhouse, restaurant. They're going there to eat.
And it's here that they start to really have those open conversations and be like, "Mom, no one's ever bought my product. Like, I'm having a really hard time." And she apologizes for what she said because it's on both of them. Like, their issues are together, not separate. And as they're just having this heartfelt conversation, the waitress comes over to take their order. And what does mom pick to do? But the 4.5 pound steak challenge so that Andy doesn't have to pay for her food. But if she doesn't finish it in an hour, it's $100.
She's like, I can eat it. I don't want to eat that much usually, but I could totally do it. And she's like, I don't want you to make you pay. And he's like, but it's $100 if you don't finish it. Like, then I have to pay 100 versus what, your $20 meal originally.
So they make her get on stage to eat this. They bring it out one by one, including her salad with dressing on the side because Weight Watchers. Obviously, not the 4.5 pound slab of meat in front of her, but the dressing has to be on the side.
Yeah, and she just has to eat this absurd. They pull it out. It's huge. She's got a dinner roll, a side salad, a shrimp cocktail. She's got the whole meal out for her, and she just starts cutting away all nice and slow, like pulling pieces apart, and like she has an hour to do this big challenge, and everyone kind of gets like annoyed with her, I would guess. And at the beginning, everyone's like hyping her up, trying to get her to like, chow down. But after like 30 minutes, everyone just kind of is like, this is boring.
The best part of this scene is a certain man takes very much interest in the mother and comes over and starts chatting it up with Andy. And he's like, "Dude, that's my mom." He's like, "Really? Do you think I would lie about that?" He's like, "Can I give her some tips?" This man flirts by bringing over a chair and sitting with her to coach her on how to eat this giant meal.
On stage in front of everybody.
What a way to flirt. If a 4.5 pound steak eaten by a tiny woman gets you a man, sign me up.
Sign me up. That's too good. But basically, he does have tips. He says he enjoys watching people like fail at this and learning how to do it correctly.
Apparently, you have to save the shrimp cocktail for last.
Ultimately, drumroll, she finished. Literally seconds before her timer was up. But she did it. She got her free t-shirt. They didn't have to pay for the meal.
And as they're trying to leave the bar, who comes out after them but Mr. Coach? His name is Ben. He had a lovely time with them, and, he would love to get to know her some more if, she's ever, in the area. He travels a lot for business, so...
She's a little like, I don't need a man like this, but at the same time, she's like pretty intrigued, so.
She still took those digits. From here, they gotta take the iconic sightseeing stop, the Grand Canyon. Stand there for about 2 minutes, I'd say, and move on to Vegas.
Vegas, baby. They're staying at none other than the Caesar's Palace. They check in, and before even heading to the room, Mom is literally like, I'm gonna play some slots. You go head up to the room, do your thing. I'll be up later.
What was her obsession with that specific slot machine? Because she was convinced that because it had a frog on it, that meant something.
Well, she was obsessed with frogs.
She was?
Yeah. Her whole kitchen was frog themed. Her whole house was.
I did not notice that.
Oh, and then when they like went to a store, she was like, look, frog earrings, and like she'd point out frogs.
I remember the frog earrings, and I thought it was just like a mom souvenir thing. I didn't think it was because she was obsessed with frogs. That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, she had frogs. That was her thing.
I completely missed that, so I'm glad you explained that.
But so she picks a machine, she sits down, she's like, go ahead, go to the room, do your thing, I'll be up later. Next morning rolls around at 7 a.m.
Bloody Mary in hand.
Bloody Mary in hand. She walks into that hotel room as Andy's getting ready, like getting up and getting ready. And he's like, you just came home? Like, what?
She's like, yeah, look, I got my ears pierced.
I was up $60, so I got my ears pierced.
Why not? That's gonna be me when I'm like 60 in Vegas. I'm just gonna be like, look, Quinlan, I finally got my ears pierced.
You know, I feel like that's a good decision.
Okay, for my 60th birthday, we will go to Vegas and I will get my ears pierced.
In Vegas. That's pretty iconic. So after mom comes in, says I got my ears pierced, he's like, Mom, I gotta tell you something. I don't have 3 pitches left.
Their last stop, all this time, was really just to find her long lost love, Andy. And this makes me a little upset. She gets really insulted by this and was like, the only reason you spent time with me was to reunite me with my long lost love? How dare you?
He's like, Mom, I wanted to spend time with you. I was intrigued as well to meet Andy. So that wasn't a trick. He's like, I wanted to spend time with you. I spent hours in the car with you.
But no, she storms off back to her slot machines and more drinks.
So then Andy has his last big pitch and he's on camera and he's like really nervous about it because all of his other pitches have been just one-on-one meetings or, a little small committee and him. Then this one's on camera and he starts giving his usual pitch. He realizes he's boring everybody. People are texting, people are just like not paying attention, and so he ends up I punched a bag.
Stop punching things in our podcast, Quinlan.
I know. So he ends up trying a new approach, something that his mom had suggested previously, like that he should try doing some other things, talk a little more plainly, not so chemistry-y, like connect with people. And ultimately, it works. They buy his product. He straight up drinks his cleaning product on camera to be like, it's safe.
And so mom comes in at the end of all of this and is so proud that he took her advice. And as soon as he's done with this pitch, she's like, I do want to go to San Francisco and meet Andy one last time. So off they go. As they're coming over the bridge, Andy's like, call him. Why did I say it like that?
Call him.
Call him. Andy tells her to call him. So hesitantly, she does. The only words she can get out on the phone are, Andy? Hangs up in fear.
She's like, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right. She's like, you got his address? Let's just drive there.
So they do. And guess who comes to the door? Andy.
But Andy Jr.
Andy is about the same age as the Andy we've been following the entire movie. This man also named his own kid after himself.
So now we're up to 3 Andys for anybody who's keeping track.
This is the Andyception, but it's about to get even more Inception-like. Unfortunately, they find out Andy Sr. has died a couple years ago. Joyce, Andy's mother, is just heartbroken. She thought this was finally her time to see him, and maybe after all these years there was still something meant to be there. But no, they introduce themselves as old friends. They come inside the house. Andy and Andy get to talking while Joyce just kind of wanders around looking at pictures. Eventually, she admits to Andy Jr. that her and his father used to date a little bit and wants to know if maybe he ever mentioned her. Maybe he felt the same about her. Sadly, no, he doesn't know anything about her. But then, his sister comes barging into the house, and she introduces herself as Joyce. Joyceception.
So, not only did Andy's mom, Joyce, name her own son after her previous lover. Andrew Sr. did the exact same thing. He named his daughter after Joyce, his ex-lover.
Now, we can't decide if this is cute or weird. It's a little bit Oedipus complex, but a little bit reminiscent at the same time, so we're mixed on that.
Yeah, it's like creepy.
But like a little bit like I cared enough, but also like this is the name of my lover.
So it's kind of hard to say, like, because most people get named after, a family member, somebody that is important to the parent, like lots of people are named after their grandparents.
I'm named after my grandma, so
Exactly. But it's weird that it was a lover that they never told anybody about.
yeah, they never talked to their families at all until Joyce just in sadness brought this up to him and started the whole movie. Yeah, but we're not gonna psychoanalyze the issues that those people had because that's not the plot of this movie.
It's just something that, yeah, was very icky to us.
Speaking of psychoanalyzing in this movie, why did she keep calling her librarian like she was a therapist?
That's who it was? She was a librarian?
Yeah,
I thought it was just her friend, or like I thought she was talking about a psychic this whole movie. Like
no, no, no.
a friend that was a psychic.
Because the entire time she's talking about her, like, friend, and then he makes the comment of, well, were you getting coffee with a therapist? Because that lady is a librarian.
Okay. Yeah, I did not realize that that was a librarian. I thought it was like a weird psychic friend that she had.
The other weird thing that I think she has her own issues with is the M&Ms.
Oh, that was weird.
Like, I get her concept behind the M&Ms of, like, I will never be with another man again that won't let me eat M&Ms in bed. I get that on like a mental level, but then we hear her eat M&Ms and I understand why he said that.
Absolutely not. The way she eats M&Ms, I would be like, no. No.
It was like she was eating straight styrofoam and just like crunching everything.
Yeah, like I was just like, how can you even eat M&Ms that loud? Like, even if I tried to eat M&Ms that loud, I couldn't.
That made no sense. But then, in the end, after their little visit to ex lover Andy's children's house, they kind of make their separate ways to the airport. They finish their audiobook right as they pull in, and they go their separate ways to their terminals. And Andy's mom whips out her cell phone, and he's just expecting another voicemail because that's just who his mom is. But this time, the call isn't for him. It was the coach from the Roadhouse.
She said, "Hey Ben, it's the lady that can eat." Is that what she said, or what did she say?
It's the big eater.
The big eater. There we go. So that's how she introduced herself to him on the phone.
And that's the end of the movie. That's it. Credits roll, people run across the airport. Life is okay.
Yeah, we obviously we get the like resolution that like his mom is now gonna like talk to this Ben guy. Maybe something will happen with that. But we don't get to know if Andy is gonna start trying to do a dating or anything.
We don't even know he's gonna be successful. Yeah, the shopping network was interested in like his product, but
Yeah, they said they're gonna push it up the ladder, but we never even actually know if he made the sale.
this movie focuses a lot more on relationships than it does on actual like plot lines. Like the plot is about them. It's not what they're doing. It's a very coming of age story even though they're full-grown adults.
It's that relationship, yeah. It's like you can't really get away from your parents. They're always gonna be your parents. Like
You got to love them for where they are.
the humor. What was like the funny stuff, besides like I feel like it didn't have like some of because the whole way like we were talking about how the mom was saying street talk and all that. I feel like this movie just didn't quite have Seth Rogen's humor.
No, not at all.
Like the raunchy like type of humor that he has and that most of his movies are. So this one was a little different from his typical humor. It was still funny, still worth the watch. Like, don't regret that at all. It's just when you think of Seth Rogen as the star in the film, you know, one of the main people, like, it's just not quite what he usually plays, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a family friendly kind of feel to it. The jokes are more like making him uncomfortable and stuff, like when they end up in a strip club because they think their tire's flat. And the mom's like, "Why is this making you uncomfortable? Like, did I give you issues as a child?"
Yeah. So things were like uncomfortable for him. There was this weird, like, I shouldn't be doing this with my mom type of humor, but you know, it's what it is, right? Like, you can be embarrassed by your parents, whatever, you know?
Yeah, or like the bellboy was like, "Oh, you're a couple?" And he's like, "Ew, no, that's my mom." Like those were the jokes in this movie.
It wasn't like his usual, like, just, yeah, graphic type of jokes, but it was funny. Like, everybody just assumed they were dating, or, you know, like, things made him awkward and uncomfortable with his mother, you know, as they should, you know?
And I mean, his mom was Barbara Streisand, so like obviously they cleaned it up a lot for that.
Yeah.
So overall, the movie was pretty decent. It's good, like we said. If you want to watch a Seth Rogen comedy, but you want to watch it with your mom, pick this one. It's something everyone can love.
I wouldn't watch it with my mom. I watch some funny Seth Rogen movies with my mom. But for those of you who can't watch the dirty Seth Rogen movies with your mom, this is a good one. I can, fortunately, watch the dirty ones with my mom, so
Well, it could also be your grandma. This is a movie you can watch with your grandma.
I don't have a grandma.
Quinlan, we talked about this. We're not allowed to bring up our dead family members.
Oh, well, watch it with your grandma. My grandma is here in spirit watching it with me, I guess. I mean, what else do you want me to say? Like,
That's fair. That's fair. Yep.
she is here in spirit.
Well, I don't think we need to say anything else after that. We're cutting Quinlan off. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
I miss you, Grandma. Peace out, Cub Scout.